Hi friends, welcome back. I'm Hannah of Sincerely Hannah B, and in today's video we are going to talk about all the books that I read in July. I had a really good reading month in July, especially compared to June. My June reading was abysmal by the standards that I should be following this year. But July we read 7 books. 2 of them were audio, 1 was from the library, and the rest were physicals off my shelf. And if you know me in real life, you know my physical TBR is a little out of control right now. So very happy that we're working our way through it. So yeah, let's just dive straight in. The first book that I read in July was Animal Vegetable Miracle: A Year of Food Life by Barbara Kingsolver. I listened to this on audiobook and I really enjoyed that experience. And I found that nonfiction audiobooks work really well for me. And this was the first one that I've picked up in a long time. And it was narrated by Barbara Kingsolver, which I also think helped because she was a great narrator. In this, you're following Kingsolver, and this was written, I believe, in like the mid 2000s. So it's an older book, but I do think it holds up well in present day. Kingsolver and her family move from Tucson, Arizona to rural Virginia, where they move onto this farm that I think her husband either inherited or bought. And they are documenting the first year or two that they live on this farm and how they set up the farmhouse, but more importantly, how they are getting their food. They decide that when they're going to do this, they're going to really kind of live off the land. And what that means is that they are going to grow their own crops, they're going to try to raise their own animals, and they're only going to try to buy food and things that you can get locally. That means like going through their neighbors or that type of stuff, but it also means that it limited them on what they could eat. So like avocados you can't grow in Virginia, so avocados weren't something that they were buying. They only were buying food or growing food that was in season. So there was a lot of the year where they couldn't eat fresh fruit, which I don't think, for me, I thought about that and I was like, oh, that would probably really upset me if I was following those rules. So that was really interesting to read about. And then she also talked a lot about like the food systems in the United States and kind of the challenges that we have with those, the carbon footprint that we leave, because so much of our food is transported over such long distances because a lot of it's grown in like California or imported from Mexico. And that takes such a toll on our environment. And she talks a lot about how they are trying to like combat it and how other people are combating it. And I just found that really interesting. I think you can tell she has a lot of passion for this topic. I think there are a couple points in the book where she talks about like, well, you could be doing this, you could be doing this, you know, all these small things matter. And I never viewed it as preachy. I saw some reviews that said, oh, it's preachy. And I was like, I don't view it as preachy. I think she's just really passionate about it. And the way that she goes about talking about food and the importance of food and the importance of not just sustaining their own family, but sustaining the community, I thought was really interesting. I ended up giving this book 4 stars and really enjoyed it. And this was also my first Barbara Kingsolver, believe it or not. I have Demon Copperhead on my shelf and a few others, so I really want to get into her fiction work now that I've listened to this. The second book that I read in July was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins-Reid. I got this through a book swap that I did with some friends earlier this year, and it was just a book that after I finished the last book of May, I was looking for a good fiction book that would just kind of be really easy to read and fast, and so I decided to give this a try. I have read a few other books by Taylor Jenkins-Reid, and I loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo when I read that a few years back. It was like one of my best books of the year that year. And I feel like every time I pick up one of her books, I'm desperately trying to like capture that high again. And unfortunately, nothing has ever really come close. I thought this was fine. Daisy Jones and the Six was fine. In this, you are following a band, and it is them telling their story in an interview style. It's the band and then other people around them documenting their kind of rise to fame and this album that they made in the 70s. And it is, or in the late 60s, I should say, late 60s into the 70s. And it's a really fascinating book. I think the way this is written, the format, like being interviews, it reads like a Rolling Stone interview. I think that works really well for the story that she's trying to tell here. The characters are really interesting. You've got a lot of them, I think, is part of the problem. You're following so many different people, and so many different people are like contributing to this, which I think makes a lot of sense narratively in terms of like, this is how it would actually go. Like if this was a real nonfiction biography about this is how it would function. but I felt at times they all kind of blended together a little bit. But this was very readable. I will say that. I just flew through this. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 days. Every time I would sit down, I would just like really blow through a huge chunk of it. I appreciated that this story didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I was so certain that there was going to be a twist in the narrative that was really going to make me mad. And it didn't go that way, and I was very pleased. And I was overall okay with the ending. But again, it just really didn't do much for me. Like, I don't, even now as I sit here and talk about this book, like nothing stands out. I don't really remember much about how I was feeling when I read this. And that I feel like is just kind of a sign of how I feel about Taylor Jenkins-Reid books in general. I think Seven Husbands of Love and Hugo might have been the outlier. And I just think she's probably not the author for me. So this will probably be the last Taylor Jenkins-Reid I ever pick up. I gave this 3.5 stars. Her writing is fine. Taylor Jenkins-Reid is a fine writer. I think the stories themselves, they're very kind of like beach read, that type of thing. I just don't think that they're for me. So 3.5 stars. This is going to get passed on to somebody else who will love it more than I did. After that experience, I wanted to pick up something again. I was really feeling just like some light and breezy and easy books. So I decided to dive into my romance stack and see what I had available. And I picked up this, which is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I have this beautiful edition with these sprayed edges. This is my first Ali Hazelwood, and I have to say I really enjoyed my experience with this book. This is technically a sports romance. You're following two characters who attend Stanford. Scarlett is a diver on the dive team, and Lucas is the captain of the swim team. He's an Olympian as well, both very talented athletes. And at the start of the book, Lucas is dating one of Scarlett's teammates, Penelope. And Penelope finds out that Scarlett and Lucas have very shared interests in the bedroom. They both like the same things. And she kind of, they're struggling. Penelope and Lucas are struggling. And she kind of suggests that maybe Scarlett and Lucas would like be happy, hooking up and trying things out. And that kind of then becomes this catalyst that pushes the story forward. I really liked the characters in this overall. I think Scarlett is a really interesting character. At the start of the book, she's struggling a little bit with her sports career. She's coming back from an injury, and there's a lot of mental things that go on in your mind when you're coming back from a bad injury. And she's kind of trying to come to terms with that and the changes in her body and all of that. And Lucas is just at the top of his game. And you have these two people who both very clearly want each other right off the rip. They've have this deep interest in each other. And then when it finally happens and they finally have that moment of connection, you're just like, oh yes, this is satisfying. There's some decent spice scenes in here. I thought they were really well written. This book does kind of break, I think, I've never read much of it, but it has like BDSM elements into this. And I think it's kind of a nice, I don't want to say a beginner's guide, but I think if you haven't read that type of thing before, this is a nice foray into it, because it's not like it doesn't get into like the really heavy stuff that you would associate with BDSM. It's lighter. But yeah, I really liked it. I like the spice scenes. I like the characters. I really liked where the story went. I did feel like there were sections of this book where we were kind of going in circles again. Like, I felt like there was probably near the back end, I feel like the back third probably could have been like half of the size of it was, and it would still have been a really satisfying ending to the story. But yeah, I liked her stuff. I do plan on reading, I think, more. I picked up Problematic Summer Romance. I got that at a book swap, so I'm gonna give that one a try next, maybe. I gave this 4 stars, really enjoyed it. Was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, because I had never had the desire to pick up Ali Hazelwood before this, and now I'm interested. I don't think I'll ever go back and revisit her STEM books, because those just didn't interest me at all. But going forward, if she's writing more like standalone stuff in this type of vein, I think I will definitely be giving her another try. After I finished Deep End, I had some friends in town, and we were spending a lot of time over at the lake, and I wanted to pick up something to bring with me over there that felt very like laying on a beach, eating bread and cheese type thing. So I decided to grab A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. This is a classic. It was originally published, I believe, in 1923. And in this, you were following a young girl named Lucy Honeychurch, who begins the book on holiday in Florence with her cousin, who was her chaperone, her cousin Charlotte. And while she's there, she meets a lot of different people, but the most notable are the Emersons, George Emerson and his father. And they're a little eccentric, a little weird, and she's kind of not really sure what to make of them. And this is really a book of not a lot happens. There's a lot of dialogue. This is really kind of in a lot of ways a coming of age story, because Lucy spends the first probably half of the book on vacation in Italy, and then she returns home to London, and she has to kind of come to terms with these changes that she's felt as she had this experience, and it helped her grow and mature and change, and now she's gone back to this very like quiet, simple life in England, and she really has to kind of deal with those feelings and the associations that she has with that, and then kind of these feelings for George that may or may not be there. She's not really sure. And yeah, I just found it really interesting. There were some like laugh out loud moments in this, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, classics can be funny, but I was not expecting it from this book. But there were a couple lines that I really, really enjoyed. I gave this 4 stars in the end, and I'm really glad I finally got through this. I've tried to pick this up multiple times in the past, and I would just get like 40 pages into it and just drop it. It's not really a long book, so there's really no excuse, but I did really enjoy the experience of finally getting through this one. After that, I wanted to again try to get some nonfiction off my shelf. I was feeling kind of that wanderlust, that need to travel after having people travel to see me. So I decided to grab A Field Guide to Getting Lost by Rebecca Solnit. I got this years ago, and this is an essay collection where Solnit is really examining the idea of being lost, both physically and metaphorically. You know, it's not it's like getting lost in nature, but then it's also getting lost in city life, getting lost in your own mind. She talks about historical figures who have got lost. She has all these different kind of ways that she examines the idea of getting lost. And I really wanted to love this because I read Men Explain Things to Me probably 5-6 years ago now, and I really liked her writing. And I liked her writing in this, but I think overall the collection just didn't quite work for me. It just didn't connect with me in a way that felt super meaningful, I guess. Even now I sit here and I can't really think to tell you like which essay of mine was my favorite in here. I think there's a lot of really interesting things with it. She talks to there's like anecdotal stories about her going to various places and her experience in those places, her connections with different people. But at the end of the day, I just didn't think this hit for me. I would like to try some of Rebecca Solnit's other writing because I think maybe some of her more modern collections might resonate more with me. I just think this was just not a book for me. I gave it 3 stars because again, the writing was really good. It was just the content of the writing, not for me. So yeah, 3 stars on that one. After that, I ended up getting another audiobook. I wanted to do another nonfiction, so I decided to grab Born Standing Up, A Comic's Life by Steve Martin. This is I think it was the first memoir he ever published, and this is Steve Martin documenting his time when he was doing stand-up comedy at the beginning of his career, and he talks a lot about how he navigated that space and how it kind of blew him up into what he would later become. He talks a lot about his relationship with his family, specifically with his father. His father and him have a tumultuous relationship, and it was really interesting to just kind of find out the whole story behind this, because Steve Martin didn't come from like a wealthy background. He's not a Nepo baby. He just kind of managed to get in the right doors and meet the right people who then got him into bigger rooms. He talks about his time on SNL. He talks about his time doing like late night shows. And I just found it really, really interesting. I don't know if I would have liked Steve Martin's early stand-up comedy. I think it might have been just a little bit too absurd for me, but he narrates the audiobook, and I just really appreciated him like talking through all these things and kind of getting the insight into how he became kind of the actor he is today. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I gave a lot of things 4 stars this month. 4 stars. I really want to do, he has a new memoir that I think came out earlier this year, and I don't remember the name of it. I'll put the cover up here, that I definitely want to get to, because Stephen Martin is a phenomenal writer. If you've never read anything he's written, you should definitely give it a try. He's got Shop Girl. The book that I really loved by him is called An Object of Beauty, and that was the first thing I ever read by him and absolutely adored it. So highly recommend him as a writer if you've never experienced his writing before. And then the final book that I read in July was a library book, and that was A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This was kind of a random pickup. I had swung up to the library to do something else, and I was just browsing through the shelves, and I saw that they had this first book. And this series has been on my radar for a long time. I saw Katie is Reading, great channel. Katie is Reading talking about this series and how much she adored this series, and I wanted to give it a try. It is the Veronica Speedwell series is the name, and you're following Veronica. She's the main character. It's told from her point of view. At the start of the book, her aunt, who she has been taking care of in England, and this is set in like the late 1800s, she's been taking care of her aunt. Her aunt has now passed away. Veronica is ready to like spread her wings again. She studies butterflies and she travels the world gathering specimens and all this stuff, and she wants to get back out there. But when she heads home from the funeral, she finds that her aunt's house has been destroyed, like gone through. Somebody has broken in. And when she goes out to try to she hears something, and she goes and she finds out who did it, and they try to abduct her. She manages to thwart her abduction and gets sucked into this whole story of her trying to figure out what is going on, why was this a thing, because her aunts weren't rich, her aunt was not like, she didn't have anything to hide, and it kind of sends her on this whole journey. She ends up meeting up with this guy named Stoker. He is a very interesting character, and I don't want to say anything more than that because I think the way he's introduced is really fun. And he and her have this very kind of interesting banter between the two of them that I think works really well. It's very much an adventure first and a mystery second. So if you're looking for something, at least for this first book in the series, if you're looking for something that's really heavily focused on the mystery part, this is probably not the type of book for you. It's very much the mystery is just part of the journey. So I enjoyed it. Again, another 4-star read. I definitely want to give her books. I want to try the next ones in the series because it looked like the reviews continue to get better as the series goes on, and I love to see that. So I'm very excited to see where this series goes. I really liked where the book ended. I like kind of the doors that were opened for the next one. So loved that. Definitely want to pick up the next one in the series. So yeah, that's everything I read in July. August is here. I'm already having a really good reading month for August, and September is going to be a very busy one. So hopefully the next few vlogs are going to have a lot of recaps that we can go through. So yeah, I hope everybody has a really great day, that your week is going well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.